Errol Spence likes to come forward and bring an power jab and lunge into his target and bring his head first, and he telegraphs his jab, and he doesn't get full extension on his jab, and his trainer pushes his hands back, so he's accustomed to that type of motion, and Crawford was able to duplicate that in the fight, pushing that hand back and deflecting it. And also, whenever Crawford would throw his punches, Errol Spence would pull straight back and be right in the line of fire and not move his head and try to come back with a jab. He would literally try to pull out of range and come back with a jab, and he telegraphs his jab. He lets you know when it's coming. His elbows are up, flaring, and he lets you know when it's coming. It's a good indicator. So Bud and his people worked on it in camp. There's nothing, no coincidences in boxing. They knew that that would happen, and what they would do is when he lifted his elbow and telegraphed, they would just deflect it at the point of the elbow and counter. Once that punch is taken out of play, which is his best punch, you have counter punch opportunities because he uses a power jab, and Bud has too much focus, as you see here, with his eyes being a counter puncher, to give a tail like that. Giving a tail to a counterpuncher is a counterpuncher's dream. They also drilled to catch the jab and then return the jab with the power jab and push all the way through Errol Spence's gaps that he leaves. Right here, he throws a jab, Bud parries the jab, and then he shoots his jab straight through the center and pushes Errol Spence back. And Errol Spence goes to the body, and what does he do? Catch him at the point of his elbow and deflect the shot. Bud timed the jab with ease because he telegraphed it. That's the wrong thing to do against Bud. Right here, he telegraphs the shot. Bud knows exactly the time that he's going to shoot it, and he just catches the jab right here at the same time shooting it. He would anticipate based off him telegraphing where the punch was going to be and just put his glove there at times. Right here, he telegraphs, and then Bud just puts his hand right there in front of his chin, anticipating the punch, and he catches Spence in his chest and knocks him off balance. Right there, he just catches him with a lead jab. He doesn't even wait for him to telegraph. Here, he telegraphs again, Bud catches the shot and then parries it. But it's a double jab, so he just puts his hand where the punch is going to be and then anticipate where his elbow is going to be, catches it at the point of the elbow, and deflects the shot. And Errol Spence throws another jab, and Bud just slightly turns his glove over right there and deflects it at the end. I want you to notice something here, because Spence did use feints. Right here, he puts his glove up, and then he jabs, right? And then he goes like he's going to go downstairs and gets Bud to react with the feints. And then he sticks his jab hand out and act like he's going to do something with the jab, and then lands the looping left. The feints were effective, but he didn't use enough of them. Right here, Spence lunges in, and then Bud takes the straight left and parries, and with that same hand, hits Spence in the back of the neck slightly, and then he catches him on the shoulder. This was a... But notice here, Spence shows the jab, and then he drops down, and Bud anticipates the jab, so he turns his left hand over to parry. He does it too early, and then Spence shoots the jab and gets that one through because he used the feint. Bud just takes his left hand and puts it on the elbow and deflects it and pushes it, but then he shells up in a high guard and bends down to get Spence to commit more on his punches, so that the 2-1 that missed a while ago now lands more flush because he got him to commit more. There were a lot of adjustments made in this fight if you have an educated eye and know what you're looking at. You would never know looking at the results, but Spence hurt Bud in this sequence right here. He catches him with a left, and Bud's legs look shaky, and he gets on his bicycle and he gets the fuck out of Dodge because he was hurt by that shot. He made it look so dominant and made it look easy to people that they believed it was really easy, but he was hurt several times throughout this fight, believe me. But right here, Bud jabs him, and then Spence doesn't have anywhere to go because of his weight, and then Bud just hits him with an accurate left hook to the temple, and he just kept him off balance. He kept him off balance with the jab that he telegraphs with his elbow being up. But right here, he feints, and he does another tail. He puts his right arm up right before he shoots it. And I'm sure Bud noticed that on film and just kept the jab on him. He kept him off balance all night with the jab and short, accurate shots to the temple to vulnerable areas. That's why it looked like Spence was on ice skates all night. And when Spence tried to make it an inside fight, he had an answer for that too. He would just step back and steer him or hit him with hooks that, as long as they were accurate and strong, even if they didn't land, they would knock Spence all off balance because his balance was horrible because his legs were so far apart. Like I said, he was off balance to begin with, had a bad base, and Bud just kept it like that. And when Errol Spence tried to get physical on the inside and bro into him with that forearm, all Bud does is take a step back, grabs him by the top of his shoulders, and he's going to take his right hand, push up on Spence's forearm, and twist his hips and bend his arm and takes it out of play. Tries to hit with the free hand, and Bud just rolls the punch and then parries it with his left hand. Like I said, subtle things. And then Errol Spence responds with a low blow, hits him low, In this sequence right here, he catches him with the Bud with the low blow, and Bud catches him simultaneously with the hook. And then Errol Spence burrows into him again with his forearm, trying to be physical in the inside. And Bud just does the exact same thing. He lifts up with his right arm, trapping Errol Spence's right arm, and then he raises up to the shoulder blade and then lands a left hook. And Spence is still leaning forward, so he leans right into that punch and then knocks him off balance. Notice something here. Errol Spence lunges in, and Bud starts the punch before he even gets there because he knows where his head is going to be. He anticipated where Spence's head is going to be, and Spence lunging in, bringing his height down, went right into that punch. And then right there, he just catches him off balance with a double right hook, and he just kept him off balance the entire fight and took advantage of Spence's poor fundamentals of the having a bad base, and then he just kept him off balance with the jab on top of that. So this fight looked like Errol Spence was on ice skates the entire fight, and it looked like he was on ice skates because Spence kept him off balance from the ground up. So he was keeping him off balance from the ground by making him lunge in, by taking steps back and steps to the side, and then up top with the jab, just keeping him off balance, timing him with him telegraphing his shots with the elbow. And he just beat him coming and beat him going. So even a correct decision is wrong when it's too late. Errol Spence waited too late in his career to make this fight happen. He allowed Bud to grow into the weight, and he grew out of the weight, which was a mistake. And I think that, even Bud taking a David Avenesian fight because he didn't want to sit around and rust, he just did so many things right in this fight. He manifested it from the ring walk to the shirt that he wore after the fight that said even big fish get caught. He visualized this fight and he made it happen. And I think Spence made the mistake of making the right decision, but he waited too long to make it.
Errol Spence, 3 or 4 years ago, you would have been the betting favorite for this fight. Do you feel like this is a more difficult fight now for you than it would have been then?
Definitely. It's definitely way more difficult. A lot of stuff didn't occur during that time, so I can see why I'm probably not the betting favorite, but it's going to be definitely a difficult fight. That's why I'm gonna have to be focused and I'm gonna have to be on point throughout the whole fight.